I should be recording right now. I guess I'll just start out by kind of talking about syllabus a little bit. So as I mentioned, there is going to be a historical component to this class, but my style personally is to kind of make things a little more project-based. So we're going to kind of look at some important historical examples of music, but we're also going to kind of learn music software, which I think will be fun. You don't have to have any experience making music, having made music prior to this class. It'll help, but there are actually so many different means of creating music that we'll kind of explore all these different workflows so that you could find a good way that works for you. So on a weekly basis, I'll kind of have some listening that we can kind of talk about, or that I'll have available to you. But I'll also have a bunch of content that kind of explains the Ableton aspects of things. I have much more of this, but I'm kind of revealing it over time. In fact, we're probably not even going to talk about the Ableton interface today. We're probably going to save that till Tuesday, but some of this stuff is here in case you wanted to get a head start. And, you know, I guess there's some listening here with some context. So I guess I just want to start out by explaining how wide the scope. Oh, am I not sharing my screen? I'm not sharing my screen. All right. If I'm not sharing my screen, please let me know. Okay. All right. So anyway, I was on this OneNote and I was kind of showing these different aspects of Ableton information that exists on this platform, but also showing that there's kind of a weekly listening that you can look at, and there's some context just to kind of give you some more ideas for your own music, but also just to kind of give you some historical ideas as well. What you'll find is that electronic music is a catch-all for a lot of stuff. It ranges from Jimi Hendrix all the way to techno, to everything in between. So you can really, it's really kind of impossible to have a complete historical discussion in one quarter, but I guess I'll try to expose you to as much stuff as I can. So I was mentioning earlier that there's a bunch of information on Ableton up here, and I'm going to reveal it over time. And we might take a look at some of this stuff today, but first I'd like to show you just a little bit about what electronic music is. And I've kind of categorized these different tracks as kind of in terms of how they relate to electronic music in a philosophical and practical way. So I guess one of the first things I'll talk about is kind of this idea of Black MIDI. You might have heard about it, but there's kind of an important precedent to Black MIDI. If you haven't heard of what Black MIDI is, it's kind of like this. And please let me know if you can hear this. Cool, right? It's impossible to play on a piano, but that's one of the things that electronic music kind of opens up. It kind of closes off a lot of limitations. So it's called Black MIDI because there's this idea, these particular notes, as they're interpreted on a computer, they're called MIDI notes. And so when you look at it in this representation through a score editor, it just looks like a bunch of black. It just looks like you literally just poured ink on a page and it's just Black MIDI. But there's an important historical precedent to this style of music. And one important figure, really important figure in this regard is this fellow named Colin Nancarrow. And he had a lot of studies for player piano. And if you're not familiar with what a player piano is, it's basically this, it's a device that, it's like a piano roll. You see these little rolls, and then the piano just interprets what this sheet is playing, and it's basically an autonomous piano that doesn't require a player at all. And so there's this real capacity to issue virtuosity. when you have this arrangement. So just to kind of give you a context of what this piece is doing is, if you know the song "Row, Row, Row Your Boat," you might not have heard of this song. It was really big in my day. If you have this particular piece of music, there's something called a canon. So if I'm like row, row, row your boat, then you come in row, row, row your boat, right? There's sort of an interval of time between when I first say it and when you say it, and that's kind of like you kind of intuitively feel when you're supposed to come in. That's like after 4 beats, row, row, row your boat, row, right? But Calanegro is like, that's too simple. Let's actually use E over pi as the kind of interval, as the mathematical relationship between the first entrance and the second entrance. Now, E is a very complicated number, pi is a very complicated number. And you combine the two, I don't think it's getting any simpler. And so the result is the computer has this facility to kind of precisely interpret this in a way that a human wouldn't, at least not very conveniently, would be able to do. So basically, if you listen to the piece, it doesn't sound like the track we just listened to, but it's it utilizes very difficult mathematical relationships, and it achieves them with perfect precision because through the aid of technology. Anyway, that's not your mama's black MIDI. That's this is the original stuff right here. So basically, you hear the second piano coming in at that precise moment in time, and that's would be impossible, I think, for a human, at least to do it with that level of precision. So it opens up sort of all these avenues of virtuosity that are otherwise not possible. Another thing that electronic music kind of liberates is this idea that you could marry a man and machine, both literally and figuratively and philosophically. So Kraftwerk, they have this piece of music called The Robots, and you kind of, the lyrics themselves kind of allude to this idea that humans are sort of androids in nature, because we have this capacity to imbue technology into our work. So incidentally, I try to put all the examples on OneNote, but some of this stuff won't embed like correctly, so you just have to click the link. it goes on to add lyrics, the lyrics that are here actually. We are the robots, we are the robots. There's this kind of, really interesting presentation here. I like the tie. I need to get a tie like that, a little sequencer tie. So this might be what you think of when you think of electronic music, because you hear a bunch of synthesizers and you hear this sort of perfectly timed drum machine kind of groove that's sort of underlying the entire composition. So, but then you might also think of electronic music as sort of a means of amplifying humanness. So you might hear, you might have heard of Jacob Collier, this incredible genius who does a bunch of overdubs of himself just using the human voice, or Bobby McFerrin, Bjork. All of these people are geniuses, and you can't have, without a computer, without technology, you can't have more than one person singing at the same time. But you can kind of liberate yourself by doing live looping and all kinds of interesting processes. So if you listen to Bjork's Pleasure Is Mine, All Mine, in this particular album, Medulla, there's a bunch of vocal sounds that are just being utilized. So, I mean, it's not just her own singing, there's also other choral members as well. But you might not immediately think of this as electronic music, but it wouldn't be possible without the capabilities of technology. Oh, yeah, this is what I mean. So if that happens, just click on the link. So a lot of overdubbing in this particular track.
Nakul, we've got some questions in the chat about doing these sort of processes by analog, like the difference between this sort of experimenting with dubbing over, like, for example, magnetic tape in the old-fashioned versus doing it digitally in the present day.
Oh yeah. That's a very interesting question. Yeah, there's no limit to doing this digitally or in the analog days. For example, the Beatles, when they layered for A Day in the Life, they basically looped. They basically overdubbed like 20 pianos playing a major chord at the very last bit of the song. They just kept using. They kept summing onto new tape machines. And they kept overdubbing in that way. So there's no limit. You could do this with digital technology or analog technology, but there needs to be some sort of, oh yeah, George Martin, absolute genius. There needs to be some sort of technology in place, whether it be digital or analog. I guess electricity would be required for the process. Yes, thanks for letting me know about the chat. I'm just looking at this, man. There's a lot of good stuff to unpack here. But yeah, speak up or give me a recap. I appreciate that, and I'll look periodically as well.
I'm Alex. I'm one of the TAs, by the way, just so people know who this random person is.
You know what? This is a perfect time to let me actually let's actually have an introduction for both TAs. I meant to do that. I totally forgot. So there's Alex and there's Chad. So Alex, why don't you go first?
Yeah, hey everyone. I'm a I'm a I'm a second year now, PhD composition student in the music department. I don't have a lot of experience with electronic music, but I'm really excited about this course, and I'll be learning along with you guys a lot of stuff. I guess I have some experience with. I mean, I'm a huge Bjork fan. I love Conlon Nancarrow. The stuff that we've heard so far is really familiar and dear to me. But in terms of using Ableton, I'm going to be learning along with you guys, so that'll be really exciting. I am primarily a composer. I play a bunch of instruments. Most of the time, I'm dealing with acoustic instruments. I play violin, viola, piano. I sing a lot. I've played in bands. I've played in sort of classical situations as well. So yeah, I'm really excited to be working with you guys this quarter.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, great to have
Can
you.
you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Well, I echo what Alex said. I'm also really excited to be a TA for this course. So I'm Chad. I'm also a second year PhD student. I'm in the computer music program. So my background is in physics. I studied physics as an undergrad and a master's student. And then after that, I did another master's in acoustics and music technology. And my interests lie mainly in sound synthesis, and typically digitally produced, but I'm also interested in analog techniques. And yeah, I mean, I've worked a little bit with Ableton, but like Alex, I'll also be learning a lot along with you guys. And what else can I say? I'm a huge electronic music fan, especially Kraftwerk, which we just heard. So I hope you guys all really enjoy the course.
wonderful. I guess I'll say a little bit about me as well. So I'm a fifth year computer music PhD student, and yeah, we're all students here. My background is in performance and composition, and I came into school to learn to ramp up my skills in technology. Yeah, my main instrument is piano, but I also play a bunch of instruments, or I try to learn a bunch of instruments. Just recording studio magic can make you sound more virtuosic than you actually are. So I enjoy learning different things for the sake of furthering my art. But I consider myself a lifelong student at all this stuff. So yeah, I wonder if there's a way for us to maybe we'll put up a little Canvas discussion where people can share their stuff, their music. We will, when we have music composition. Oh yeah, I actually do have a Discord. My last class suggested that they have one for all future classes too. So I could send you the link to that, and we can use Discord. But just to let you guys know, there will be a good amount of crosstalk on Canvas, because your homework submissions will also be critiqued by your classmates in a very positive, encouraging way. You want to encourage each other and be encouraged. Be encouraged and be encouraging. So it'll kind of be a way for you guys to share work and talk about it. And yes, it would be great to share everyone's music as much as possible. And yes, I'll drop the Discord link. I'm sort of new at this, but everyone will, I'm excited that we get to use this more, because the other students really advocated for it, and it's just got created. Okay, so I guess back to the listening. I guess the next track that I have here is Pauline Oliveros, and she had a band called the Deep Listening Band. And this, I guess, I bring this example into just to kind of showcase electronic music's capacity to convey space. Because if you're in a large concert hall, there was a time when you could only experience the acoustic phenomenon of that concert hall by actually going to that space itself. And Pauline Oliveros specialized in going to really resonant and reverberant places such as cathedrals. And I mentioned this underground cistern which has a 45-second reverberation time, which I would love to go to that place. I actually have, speaking of reverb, we'll talk more about it, but I had a teacher who's still a mentor of mine who captures reverbs around the world. He's got this free plugin called Echo Thief. And he goes around and captures, he goes to these spaces just to kind of allow the listener or the composer to be able to inject the space into their own music. But in this particular case, Pauline Oliveros did actually go to these places with her band, and it kind of, if you've ever gone to a tunnel or somewhere with a huge reverberant kind of wash, you'll notice the propensity to want to listen a little deeper because everything seems to get magnified. So we'll take a listen to this. Also, Oliveros was a UCSD professor here a while back, which is cool. Yeah, it's a little quiet. I'm looking at the chat. It is meant to be quiet to some degree. I would listen with headphones. I don't know how much of this is transmitting over Zoom, but my YouTube volume was maximized. This might be just part of Zoom's algorithm to duck out things that they might not find. You know, this isn't, they optimize their volume settings for conference calls. So they're like, what is this soft music that you're supposed to intently listen to? They're probably not accounting for this in their algorithm. So, but yeah, I would recommend listening through headphones, and people are saying that it did sound good through headphones. But anyway, it's a beautiful piece. It really makes you listen deeply. And through the instrumentation and through the reverberant space, you basically feel like you're in this place, and you get to listen really deeply. I don't know how to pronounce this. I'm embarrassed to say. Someone could correct how do you, is it, I don't know how to do it, but if someone does know how to say this name, please say it. But what's interesting about this next example is that this composer employs generative means. So you could create speaking of algorithms, you could actually create an algorithm to generate music for you. And this composer did it, and Aphex Twin did it. They do it to different degrees, and they don't always expose where they're doing it or when they're doing it, but you can be assured that there's some sort of generative process that's being employed by these composers at least at some given time. And that basically means that the computer can kind of generate the music on its own accord, provided you write the algorithm for it. So there's sort of someone, actually, this is, I lifted this quote from somewhere. And the machine-made otherness of Autechre's sound is an oral Rorschach test. And that basically implies that you can't really tell if it's created by a human or if it was created by a machine. In other words, you can't really tell if what was created by a machine was created by, yeah, I guess I said it correctly. It blurs the line of perception. It kind of, it's the tipping point. Okay. Someone just commented about the original sound function on Zoom. I've heard about this.
I just wonder whether you've got that enabled, because that sometimes increases the quality of what we're getting through your computer.
Oh, okay, let me try that. And there's also this. Okay, yeah, there's this new setting that just got added: high quality audio. But I don't think I have that latest version. Okay, I just turned on original sound. Let's see if that fixes anything. Is that better?
It's kind of hard to tell with this clip because
Oh, yeah.
of the type of music it is.
Right. Okay, well,
But I think so.
there's also another setting that I can take a look at. I think I have to download the latest version of Zoom, but
I think original sound is, I mean, it could have additional features, but I think one of the main uses is for to eliminate noise cancellation. So like if you have a choir that's trying to sing, it won't cut out the noise from other singers. It might have other like features for computer audio as well. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'm wondering if that will actually, because it did say that there's some filter background noise from my monitor fan. I don't know if that will. See, I don't know if the sound from Zoom is just taking it directly. So I might turn that original sound off, because I feel like the system sound's still going to go through to you directly. Now it's just adding in, like what Chad was saying, it's just adding in the ambient noise of the room. But let's see. There was a high quality music setting that just came out, so I'll experiment with that. But
I know. I mean, I know Shirok gave a workshop on this at the start of the first quarter we did remotely, and I think there was something about suppressing the turning off the suppression of background noise was also helpful in the advanced audio settings. But
oh yeah,
we can figure it out later.
I did hear about that, and that makes sense, because that, I guess, does something similar in the sense that, yeah, if there's a bunch of noise, I guess this is all related to computer music, so in some abstract sense, but yeah, I guess it prevents that ducking in and out. If there's a loud sound in the background, it privileges having the fan on instead of like cutting me out in relation to the fan. But anyway, we'll definitely look more into it. All this feedback is very useful. It's good for everyone. But anyway, this particular Autechre track was kind of just shown to show you that computers can kind of generate music if you have an algorithm that can kind of have generative processes to do so. A lot of modular synth setups. If you've heard of this artist named Richard Devine, he's got these very elaborate modular synthesis patching setups where it's almost out of the realm of control for what gets created. It's so complex, the process, that you don't exactly have a sense for exactly what's going to happen. So there's an element of chance to it all. Can you show us a modular synth setup? Yes. So a modular synth setup, I actually don't have a modular synth. I've been messing around with this virtual analog stuff, but basically looks like this. I guess I can actually show you. Yeah, it looks beautiful. If I go to his Instagram, and sometimes Instagram's kind of loud, so I hope it's not really loud. I just enjoy looking at this and playing it. Let's see if this is, hopefully it's not too loud. Yeah, this guy's a genius. I got to meet him at NAMM. NAMM is not Vietnam. I got to meet him at the National Association of Music Merchants, and that's basically a big conference that happens in Anaheim every year, where you get to see all of this technology being debuted. Unfortunately, I'm not probably not going to happen this year, but it's really cool. You run into all these celebrities, and Stevie Wonder's there every year. He's got this huge entourage, and it's just fun. But Richard Devine is there as well, or it might be Richard Devine. But yes, modular synthesis basically involves all these different modules that kind of interface with each other. And this is an example of a virtual version of. That's a software called. I mean, it was a little loud. I wasn't sure if it was too loud, so I stopped playing it. This is a software called Max MSP, which is created by UCSD's very own Miller Puckett. Essentially, these kind of modalities for music creation are there's an element of randomness to it, where the computer, once you create the algorithm, it might be the algorithm itself that's creating the music, or it might be you that created the algorithm. It kind of there's an element of chance to it all. So that's what this modality of electronic music is referring to. Then there are psychoacoustic phenomena. So this particular artist, Marianne Amache, I'm sorry, I'm so bad with pronunciation.
No, you nailed it.
Oh, I got it? Okay,
Amache.
great. Okay, perfect. Thank you. What she discovered accidentally was were these particular sounds, and this is unfortunately not going to probably transmit over Zoom speakers. So you're going to want to listen with the precise, with the music relatively loud and with good speakers. And I think you actually have to listen to this on speakers instead of through headphones. But what she discovered was she thought she was going insane because she was playing this piece of music and she heard a third melody inside her ear. And what she actually was hearing was this phenomenon called an otoacoustic emission, which is basically our cochlea, our eardrums actually make sound if they're stimulated in a certain way. So like when this music's being played at the current conditions, there's actually a phantom melody that you actually hear in your ear at the correct time. So I'll play it just to kind of give you a sense for what it is. It's a really cool piece of music, but you're probably not going to get the psychoacoustic phenomenon. Yeah, I think you definitely need to listen to it with speakers, and then it evolves. The piece evolves. It's a really cool piece. It goes into this. It's amazing. I was playing this at my house, and my family was freaking out, so I had to stop playing it because I had to play it really loud, and they thought like someone broke in our house or something. Yeah. So there is a lot to unpack here. I actually had to email one of my friends who's more of an expert in this music, and he was the one who suggested, oh, you have to have the proper conditions for this, and he gave me a little more backstory on it. But I would listen to it. It's really brilliant. It's amazing.
Nakul, do you know what the phantom melody or the phantom sound is meant to sound like? What are you listening for?
Let me actually pull up this exact correspondence that I had with one of my friends about this. So what he said is, make sure you play it loud on a good system. Too quiet, it has an ice cream jingle, but just right and you hear the third melody inside your head. I'm still trying to figure out if I've heard it or not, but last time I tried to play it, I had to stop playing it. My family made me stop playing it. But there is this, this is what you want to listen to. So let me actually copy this and put this on the OneNote. I'll exclude this right here.
It seems a little bit similar to John Cage's experience in the anechoic chamber when he was told that he was going to go into a completely silent room with no reverberation, and he went in and he heard two different sounds, going on, and he came out and he asked the attendant, like, what am I hearing? What is this sound? And they told him, there's no sound in the room. What you're hearing is the sound of your nervous system and the blood pulsing through your body. So the low sound was your blood going through your heart, and the high sound was this, like, your nervous system buzzing, basically.
Wow. I'm gonna catalog that down just so I can add it later. That's really interesting. I've heard that I've heard that if you go to an anechoic chamber that you can hear your nervous system, but I've never heard any more context on that. That's incredible. I've always wanted, yeah, just to kind of say it once more. An anechoic chamber is a place where there's absolutely, it's a theoretically completely quiet space. So when he went into the space, he could hear his circulatory and nervous system. I think that's what you said, and that's just wild. I've always wanted to go to an anechoic chamber. I had a friend who actually worked there because they designed technology that was, I guess, like very the quiet conditions were very important for the development of this technology, and he couldn't stay in there for more than 10 minutes because it was just too
It's extremely disconcerting. I've been inside one. It's a really strange experience. You're hyper self-conscious about every movement that you make.
Wow, I gotta go in one. Incredible. So this next artist I'm going to talk about is sort of along the lines of classic, what a lot of people might think of as electronic music. It's sort of like house music. This particular artist, Akufen, I think he's from Montreal, and he's got this genre that I think people have named micro house. And what's really cool about this is that he actually sampled over 2,000 samples of radio feed. I think he broke the record at the time for the most amount of samples in a particular album. And it's just got all these curious little aspects of it kind of sounds a little bizarre, but it's quite interesting, I find. I'll skip ahead. This is the entire album. All kinds of samples. These are most of those are samples that he's taken from other pieces of music, and he's layered them onto his own music. Yeah, one of my favorite artists. I really like it. Some of the samples are just so bizarre, and the way he juxtaposes them in. This was more tame, but if you listen to it, it's just got all these interesting vocal sounds and all kinds of interesting stuff. Flying Lotus, one of my favorite artists as well. Got to see him live, and this is just kind of he kind of ties the bow on a lot of what electronic music can do. He just creates a very immersive, oftentimes an audiovisual landscape through his music. He doesn't really fit into one category, nor do any of these people really do. But there's something very immersive about all of the processing that you can achieve using a software like Ableton. And Flying Lotus is complete master of Ableton in terms of utilizing all the different processing that, or a large amount of processing that's available to you. So, oh, gotta click it over here. So this is a cool music video too. absolutely amazing. So yeah, something very immersive about this. If you see this on if you see this live, it is really trippy, and it's because all the visualizations synchronize with the audio, and it's just like this very immersive experience. Highly recommend it. Yeah, Flying Lotus, also incredible sample artist. He's got gigabytes, probably terabytes of samples that he repurposes into his music in very creative ways. I guess I also want to talk about some aspects of music that you might not even think of as electronic music. One aspect, Glenn Gould, classical music is electronic music. A lot of times, recorded classical music is. Now, Glenn Gould, when he recorded the Well-Tempered Clavier, he was really enamored by the technology, recording technology. So much so that he would obsess over individual takes, and he would splice takes together. People often say that Glenn Gould was very spontaneous as a young man, but he became really calculated and consumed as an older man. And I think part of that maybe was in part to recording technology, because you could get exactly what you wanted. And you can imagine what happens when you have someone with a perfectionist mentality like a classical pianist, and then you give them the option to get the perfect take. Well, he took full advantage of that, and he just basically made the music perfect to his own standards. Now, there's different. It's not clear exactly when he spliced things and when he didn't, but if you read about it, you'll find that he sometimes would splice several things together over the course of just a few seconds. He would be that meticulous about it, and this was a tedious process, especially in the analog days when he was writing. But he still managed to do this. And then Alex Taylor also wrote. Eric Carlson's Milton Babbitt project is an extreme example of this. I'll have to take a listen to that as well.
Do you know about that? So we have a faculty member, Eric Carlson, who is recording the entire works of this very weird composer, Milton Babbitt, who was a sort of mid-century serialist, and he's recording it one note at a time and splicing it together, like literally one pitch at a time, not even a few seconds, like note by note. He's recording each one, and then like these thousands and hundreds of notes, like putting them all together. So
that's incredible. Wow, I gotta check that out. That's really amazing. I gotta hear more about this. Yeah, I have heard about people, like I had this advisor in the recording studio who used to work here at UCSD, and he was doing something for Roger Reynolds, and I guess like they recorded it, and I think Roger Reynolds was like, hey, can you make this faster? And he had to like manually adjust every single sample and like move it back a certain number of milliseconds proportionally based on the piece. So like you can do things like that. You're like, oh, I want to make this faster, I want to make this slower. You can stitch things together in a very precise way. Let's see. Oh, there we go again. It's just going to sound like classical.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help. This sentence is grammatically correct.
I won't play it right now because I'm not exactly sure where the stitching occurred, but just be aware that it does happen. It's also great to listen to. Yeah, of course. Electronic music can extend into the realm of rock music. We were talking about the Beatles earlier, George Martin, and how George Martin basically was brilliant at basically utilizing recording technology to get to heighten the musical effect. In the case we were talking about earlier, we were talking about the several different piano samples being layered one on top of another. Interestingly, the first Beatles album was recorded in like 8 hours, but just that day in the life song took like an entire day to record because they got so into all of the creative possibilities that recording afforded them that they would actually decide to spend 3 hours overdubbing 20 different pianos playing the same chord. So you can kind of, it kind of opens up a lot of possibilities. And I actually, at NAMM, I actually got to go to a talk by Jimi Hendrix's recording engineer, Eddie Kramer, and he was talking about actually how they always tried to outdo each other in this regard. Like Eddie Kramer would always be like, oh, look at this like reverb I put on your track, and like Jimmy would be like, oh, I'm gonna play something really good over that, and like, can you do something with this? And they would just kind of have this back and forth, and they would just keep making the music better and better by utilizing technology and understanding how it makes sense in a musical fashion. So of course there's this classic, have you ever been to Electric Ladyland? Now what's funny about this is there's like a gameplay, it's like a gameplay video, because the only way that they were allowed to upload this video for fair use is if there was a reason, like a video game or something. So this music video has nothing to do with the song. Oh, wait a second. Oh, I'm sorry, I copied the wrong link.
Maybe YouTube's like stripped the sound out.
No, I think there were two versions, and I tried to find one without this music video. But I'm pretty sure it doesn't look like this. But anything for fair use versions. Yeah. Yeah, OP does have good taste. Yeah, so anyway, this is kind of, you can kind of get a sense for how broad the topic of electronic music is. And you could have a class on all of these different genres of music. You could have an entire program of music just dedicated to these types of music. So it's, that's why I think it's kind of cool that we're going to talk about creative uses and learn what this stuff is in the context of creating it, so you can better understand all of the different nuances in the music, and just kind of give you a jump start into your own creative practice, however that may look like. And with that being said, I guess we have some time, so I could take some questions, and then I could start by talking a little bit about Ableton. So if there are any questions, please speak up. There's this chat is getting, I do have the chat window open.
I have a question.
Sure.
I've already got the I've got a version of Ableton Lite. Is that going to be enough? I grabbed the trial as well, but if I could keep everything in one version, it'd be nice.
Okay. So I will talk about aspects of the suite version. Like there are a couple of instruments, operator, analog, and wavetable that are all only included in the suite version. So I will be talking about those things. So I'm going to give people the option to use third-party products that are free that could also accomplish that. But if you can, I would encourage you to use Suite, but then I also understand that once class finishes, you won't have access to that unless something happens where you suddenly get access to that. I don't know how you would, but there is an advantage to using Suite. I guess that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Also, if there's any kind of questions about any weird links you're getting or anything like that, I'll stop recording and then we could talk about it after I stop recording, because that's just terrible. I can't believe someone's sending that around. Anyway, with that being said, oh yeah, it's saying that it's a 90-day trial, but actually they're really extending it to 180 days. That's what the website says, but from what I've heard, they just keep extending it. They don't really care. I think it's kind of a Easter egg in it. But either way, I think 90 days should get us through the entire quarter at least, which is cool because normally it's only 30 days, so we kind of got lucky. But yeah, hopefully it's 180. And yeah, great, yeah. So I guess we could talk about Ableton. Why not? Oh, can we go through the grading? All right, let's take a look. So I guess I didn't really talk about the syllabus in this regard. So there's 5 assignments, and they're 50% of your grade. And I actually erroneously had homework 1 due the 9th of October because I thought that was the end of week 2, but this is week 0. So homework 1 is actually due on Friday, October 16th. And I'm going to be adding something to this, just like one thing that's like, it's not going to be much, but it's basically what you see on homework 1 is basically a template for all your other homeworks. And basically what you have to do, oh yeah, there are 2, oh yeah. What you basically have to do is embed everything correctly. Like this really helps a lot for the TAs and me to just kind of view things quickly, and that will help you get more feedback because everything will be more streamlined. Essentially what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to embed an audio track into your submission, but then you're also going to embed your Ableton project file. Like you're going to include a link to it, a Google Drive link, and then there are several screenshots of things that you need to include as well. And this just basically lets everyone who's grading your work get a bird's eye view of what to listen for as they're listening to your track, and also just to see that you're not falling behind on any of the creative concepts. So in addition to all of this, you have to post your audio file under discussions. And these portals aren't open yet because it's too early. I could make it, but it's going to be finalized, tweaked just ever so slightly, but this is basically what it's going to be. And you're going to post your work under discussions as well. And the idea is, under that particular participation heading, because I can't necessarily enforce attendance because of time zone differences, even though I strongly encourage you come because it really it helps everyone. It helps me especially to understand how to tailor the curriculum to the students if the students are actually here and like piping up and interrupting me and whatnot. I take it all as very helpful for how I should proceed. So the result is, when you're actually trying to account for participation, it's not really tallied by you coming to class, it's tallied by actually leaving feedback on your colleagues' works. And I guess I will say that if you do come to class, I will have an attendance record. It'll kind of work in your favor. It'll kind of serve as some sort of extra credit to some degree. But really, if you do your participation, you'll be fine. So that's basically that, and homework will be under the class info heading.
Cool. There are a few people asking whether they can use another DAW, and I'm pretty sure that you want everyone to use Ableton, right?
Yeah, I prefer you use Ableton because it's everything I'm going to be talking about is really specific. I mean, you could apply it to other DAWs, but I'm going to be talking about specific things, and you're also going to submit project folders. So I think using Ableton is preferred. It'll also just, if you do use another DAW, it'll just kind of give you another perspective. Because I use several DAWs. I use Ableton, I use Pro Tools, I use Logic. It doesn't have to be Live 10, although there are advantages to using Live 10. Some of the instruments, I think, the wavetable instrument, for instance, only exists on Live 10. Yeah, we can work around things on a case-by-case basis. You could also, like, depending on what you do, as long as you use Ableton to some degree, you might be able to have a workflow where you rewire and use other software in addition. But yeah.
Nakul?
Yeah.
So would they be docked points if they use a different DAW, or as long as they're fine with the fact that the materials cover Ableton and they want to use a different DAW, is that fine?
I would prefer that they use Ableton. They won't be docked points, but I would ask that they they email me on a case. They email us on a case-by-case basis, because yeah, truth be told, if you include the screenshots for what you've done, you will be fine, because the screenshots will just be screenshots that you could accomplish in any software. But like, for instance, one advantage to using Ableton is like, if you did want to share if someone did want to open your project, like a TA or something, they could open it and take a look. And I don't know, there's a lot of cool things that are specific to Ableton that I don't think they translate exactly one-to-one with other DAWs.
I mean, this is basically an Ableton course, right? So we want people to get Ableton.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just briefly explain how to get the either the trial or the other version, so
Sure.
that people know that it's really straightforward and easy.
Sure, yeah. It's super straightforward and easy. So what you can do is you can just get the 100-day free trial. You just click the link. It'll say 90 days, but I'm pretty sure it's 180. You just download it. Supposedly, I don't condone this, but there's a mysteriously free version going around. How dare they? You could actually have multiple versions installed at the same time. So you might find that you could start with this version, you could go to another version, whatever version that may be. But it's really, really easy to get the trial and to work through the examples. And yeah, it doesn't really harm you to do so, because it's completely free. And I guess as far as I don't know anything about option 2, but you know, I'll stick around after class if anyone wants to discuss any of these options. I might be able to get more information on some of these options, but I'll wait till after class. But anyway, that's basically the gist on how to get Ableton. It's really simple, really easy. So I recommend, yeah, I guess I'm just gonna say use Ableton, because it's the best way to go in terms of it'll make what I'm saying make the most sense, and you'll be engaged. Okay, that's what I have to say about that. If there are any questions about any of this, let me know. If not, I guess I'll just start talking about Ableton. And it's 12:02. So
Nakul, maybe we could also just quickly say that there are no sections tomorrow.
Oh yes.
Can I say that?
Yes, absolutely. There are. I'll send out an email as well. But there's no section tomorrow, and there's no section tomorrow just so that we're all kind of on the same boat in terms of getting briefed on the same things. So the first section I believe are on Wednesdays, and then the other sections are on Fridays. So yeah, there are no sections tomorrow. And I saw someone raise their hand. You don't have to raise your hand. You can just speak up. But are discussions mandatory? Again, what I would request that you do is you contact your TA if you can't go to discussion. If there is a reason that you can't go, whether it's a time zone difference or something, just let them know what your reason is. But I would say go to discussion section. It only works. School only works when you have people kind of interfacing with each other, and this is our attempt to do so. So I would go. It's only an hour a week, and it'll kind of connect you. It'll be kind of good to get out of the house too. So anyway, that's my take on it, and yes. Cool. Yes, they are virtual. Everything is virtual. Okay. All right. I'm going to get off the chat for a second. There's a lot of stuff there. So I guess the first thing I'll say, when you open Ableton, there are 4 different views. Okay? And I'll go over these particular views in the context of the OneNote. If you open Ableton, you might see, let me move the chat windows out of the way, you might see this particular view right here when you open it. You might see all of these little rectangles and all of this stuff. Now this is called Session View. And the way you access Session View is by clicking this little icon right here. And that's Session View. Another way that you can access Session View is by pressing Tab. So if you click this button, you're in session view. If you click the button right above it, you are in arrangement view. And basically, if you're in session view or arrangement view, you can press tab to go to the other view. So look at this. I'm going from session view to arrangement view. So let's play a game, okay? I'm going to go to a view, and I want someone to tell me what view I'm in. Speak up.
Arrangement view.
Arrangement view. All right. Loudest person wins.
Session.
Oh, she's timid. Session. Come on.
Arrangement.
All right, guys. You're getting a little out of hand. I'm just kidding. All right, great. That was fun, wasn't it? All right, you guys basically know Ableton. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's get onto it a little bit deeper. Okay, so what did I just do? I went from session view to arrangement view. To be honest, we're not going to talk about session view until like week 10 or week 9. What session view allows you to do is to arrange music non-chronologically. Meaning, like, you could in session view have a particular piece of music here and then like play this particular piece of music and then play this particular piece of music and play it out of order. You're not tied down to a specific order when you're playing the music. Whereas arrangement view basically allows you to play things chronologically. This is like what you're probably used to when you see Logic or Pro Tools. Well, I guess Logic 10.5 has something like this, but what you'll really see is a timeline. Basically, you see the time on the bottom, and you see the beats on the top. And as you play the transport, you see time advancing. We're going to the future right now. We're in the future now. Now we're going to go back in time. We're in the past, right? Future, past. So you can kind of traverse time in this particular manner. And so this is arrangement view. We're going to stick to this view for class because I think it's the most straightforward view to understand, at least in the beginning. Then what you have is detail view. And detail view is basically this bottom section right here. Now detail view can either be filled with clip view or it can be filled with device view. Okay? Clip view, device view. And what that means, and we're going to talk about this again, don't worry if this is a little confusing at first. What that means is, I'll show you what I mean. Okay? So I'm in detail view. And what I see right here is a clip. But I can also go and click this little thing right here, and I could see the device that's associated with this clip. I'm going to talk about this more, but just think about it this way. Basically, the clip itself is what is being played, and the device is the instrument that's playing the thing. It's like the sound that gets played. So this is like the note that's getting played, and this is the device that's playing the sound. Now this is a special case because this is a waveform. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. I just want to, I'll come back to this in one moment. I just want to kind of reiterate something. That these 4 views are the most important views in Ableton. Session view, arrangement view, clip view, and device view. There's all these other views, but these views right here, there's also this view, but this view doesn't really have anything to do with what we're talking about. These 4 views are the most important views in Ableton. And the idea, just to kind of recap what this is, in arrangement view, you kind of have the chronological placement of musical ideas where you lay them down. But each thing that you click on the arrangement is a clip, okay? So if I want to see that clip, I can go down to detail view and click clip view. And there's the clip. And now I'm in clip view. And that's a way for me to zoom in on this particular clip in the software. I can see it down here. Incidentally, anything that I hover over in Ableton, you could see more context on using the help view, which is on the bottom left. I can't actually move over to it because it'll change what the context of the help is showing, but this is the info view over here. So notice how when I hover over here, it's basically on the bottom left of the screen, it's saying it's clip overview, right? Over here, if I click over here, it's the device view, right? Okay, so these views right here, incidentally, in order to switch from clip view to device view, you press Shift Tab, okay? So Tab gets me from session view to arrangement view. Shift Tab gets me from clip view to device view. Okay?
Professor,
Yeah.
do we need to like memorize these shortcuts for like a test or something?
You won't have to memorize the shortcuts for a test. You'll just, the assignments will just basically be made easier if you know what these things are. It's ultimately assignment will necessitate some sort of fluidity with Ableton. And someone said quality of life shortcuts. Yes, absolutely. Would the professor be able to use one of the circle add-ons to make the lectures more viewable?
I wasn't sure what that meant. I was going to say something, but I didn't know what that meant.
Sorry, I meant like on those tutorials where people have like when you're clicking, it shows like those little circles that kind of light up, or when you're moving your mouse, just to make it more follow alongable. Even though I could see what it was, like I'm just in a general kind of.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe I could make like the mouse bigger or something, so you could see it better. Or
you
something.
could use the annotation feature of Zoom if you wanted.
No, I was thinking he meant something else. I don't think that works in the same way.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'll try my best to like show what part of the screen I'm talking about, and Unfortunately, there is this cool thing where you can zoom in. Right now, I'm zooming in using the system zoom, and I zoom in, but you can't see that because it's not transferring over, and it's kind of fun to zoom in and out. If we were in a classroom, you'd immediately see me zooming in. So I'll look into third-party options for this, for Zoom. But anyway, I guess I'll shake my mouse. I guess if I do shake my mouse, cursor becomes really big, which I set up, which is kind of cool. So here I am. Before I actually talk about this, let's see. We haven't talked about tracks yet, and I don't have something on that, on this. I do have it on my template for this. I could pull it up really quickly. Give me 1 second. So we talked about clips. And really, just to kind of reiterate what a clip is, it's a container for a sequence of notes, or it's a container for an audio clip, okay? So right here, here's a clip with one note. And remember, this is a track, right? And here is the same clip with one note. Here is a clip with several notes. And here's an audio file, okay? So what we're seeing in Ableton is this is a track. You basically have a track here, you have a track here. On that track itself, you could have several different clips. Now, truth be told, you can't have an audio clip and a MIDI clip on the same exact track, but this is just to kind of illustrate all of these types of clips that you can kind of see. And clips are really the things that get recorded onto the tracks. So if you wanted to, you could just record something. Turn on my little keyboard right now. You don't have to follow along with all these steps right now, but if I wanted to, I could go to a piano instrument, drag it on here, right? Is MIDI picking up? Okay, cool. It's sharing audio. I could record something, turn on the metronome, and you'll see what I record is actually mirroring what I played. That's exactly what I played, right? And basically what you see is this particular sequence of MIDI. This is the MIDI that I was talking about. It looks like a piano roll, right? You see it over here, and you see it chronologically over time, right? You see that over here. So that's a MIDI clip right there. Right? So we're not really concerned about clips in session view, but they do exist in session view. We're really concerned about clips in arrangement view because we want to see them chronologically over time so that we can actually sequence a song out. Okay? So in the case of what I just showed you, we are going to end at 12:20, and I'm going to recap a lot of this stuff next class, but I'm just kind of giving you a very, very basic overview of these different views. In the case of what I just played, it's something called a MIDI clip because it's just a discrete collection of notes that I played. It's not like an audio file where it's like a waveform. It's just like the advantage of a MIDI clip is like if, let's say I made a mistake, which I did. I wanted this right here to be this. I could just change the notes around, and there's no consequence to what I created. So that's the advantage of MIDI. We won't, when you're dealing with an audio clip, which looks like this, what you see is a waveform. And if you zoom in, you can actually see every single point. It's not letting me zoom in any further, but you can actually see all of the compressions and rarefactions that constitute this waveform. And it's basically this exact pattern of this waveform gets emulated by your speaker cone, and it pulsates in this exact fashion, which produces the sound, which then causes your tympanic membrane to pulsate using the same pattern, which our brain then just interprets as as whatever sound that is. So this kind of means of working when you have an audio file is different than working with discrete entities like MIDI notes. Just something to be aware of. And we'll talk more about this. I know this is a lot of information, but just something to be aware of. So I guess I'll just ask you, what kind of data is this? Clip. Is this MIDI data or audio data?
MIDI.
MIDI. Okay. What about this?
Waveforms.
So waveform, that's audio data, right? Now, here's a good example of talking about device view versus clip view. Notice how when I click this little audio file, if I go to device view for this audio file, there's no device here. Well, it doesn't need a device, right? Because this particular waveform is already making the sound. This is already encoding all the information for the sound. Like it's going to play this, and that particular pattern, as we talked about, is exactly the same pattern that our speakers vibrate at and our eardrums vibrate at in order to make the sound. So there's nothing further to do in order to make a sound. Whereas over here, this is a clip, but without a device on this clip, no sound can happen, right? You can imagine this is the sheet music that a pianist plays. But a pianist also needs a piano to play the sheet music, right? So this is, in clip view, you really see the sheet music. In device view, I'm down here by the way. In device view, you actually get to choose the instrument that plays that sheet music. So I could actually choose a different instrument to play this sheet music by changing the device. I could choose a different instrument. These are different devices. Right? This particular instrument is out of the range of this sheet music, so it won't play anything. But so this is an important thing to realize. When you're dealing with MIDI clips, the MIDI clips are just basically sheet music. So having the sheet music alone is not enough to make something sound. You also need an instrument. So that's where device view comes into play. This is why I consider these 4 views to be so important. Clip view and device view are really important. So remember, Shift Tab is how you access it. And you could see that the device for this sheet music, this MIDI clip, is this particular piano. Whereas if I go to this audio file right here, it doesn't need an instrument because this is going to literally play this waveform. Okay. Okay. Oh, what was the name of that song? I was just making that up. I don't know. But anyway, let's see. Cool. Hopefully that makes sense. And there is a lot more that I can say. I don't want to confuse you guys about any of this stuff. Whoops, sorry. Didn't mean to open that. Yeah. What time is it? Oh, it's 12:21. All right, guys. I guess that's good for today. I'm going to stop sharing. Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop recording. And now, once I stop recording,